Good morning, friends and fiends, all the usual suspects in the poppy cult. Good morning, Don. How are you? Sue Fidelli and Gubby and Winston and Butt Big Bear and Waters Above and Alex and TJ, and I saw Bob from Globebusters in here, and John and Jason Gay. How are you, man? How did you get here? Jay, it's always good to see you, my friend. Liz, the Iron Maiden. Wow, good Mojo Shop. We truly do have the whole gang here. It's great to see you guys. What are we doing today? Let's see. Lost and Found. What have we got here? Probably going to be a fairly short episode today, and for reasons which I think you'll probably gather and easily understand. So let's see. We try to catch everybody up if you've missed a couple episodes or whatever. Taking a look at trying to expand the reach a little bit, and not through marketing or anything, but just reassessing how we got here, according to one of our guests. How did we get here? Well, this all began, as you probably know, with the Awakening Project and trying to better understand the nature of what's going on here. And so I got a chance last night to meet with one of our friends, Brian, who's been staying in the area for a little bit, and he's right around the corner from me. In fact, I could probably throw a rock from my office and hit his room where he's staying. So it was great to get a chance to meet up after we've been trying for a couple of weeks and just all kinds of stuff going on, but we finally did get a chance. 4 more hours, says Bob. Love you, man. All right. So anyway, we got a chance to talk, and as things usually do, the conversation often turns to the nature of this thing, and why do some people get it, and why do some people not get it, and that flickering look of they get in their eyes as the cognitive dissonance begins to set in, and as they're faced with reality, or at least the opportunity for their reality to be questioned. Some people get a little bit of what we call the purple pill, like they will accept a few things. Allison, thank you. I will take a look at that. So they get the opportunity to perhaps see a few things or question maybe an idea, right? And so there might be some people who, for example, they would agree with the premise that from time to time the media lies to them. Well, okay, if the media lies to you, how do you know when they are and when they're not? Is everything else they say real, or has it become to a state where everything is deception and an illusion? Of course, from this side of the fence, I think most of us lean to that latter portion. But when you're first beginning to look at it, once you accept the premise that some authority figure, whoever that might be, has been dishonest with you and has led you down the primrose path, so to speak, then as you begin to accept and entertain the implications of that, then that's when it begins to get scary. People look down that rabbit hole and go, well, yeah, maybe not. So most people out there, even on the street, would agree that media from time to time gets the story wrong, or even is dishonest. They're slanted, right? At least they have an agenda. I think everybody would accept that notion. But then when you challenge something that they believe, of course, that's when fighting words start. And so this premise, and certainly seeing things from this side of the road, once we have gone down the path a little bit, again, most of us have come to agree that pretty much everything that they give to us is an illusion. It's designed as a deception to make us see the world incorrectly, wrong, to hide from us so many things, from where we are to who we are, our history, and what we're capable of, pretty much everything. But when you begin to see it, of course, in any stable relationship, even not stable, but certainly even stable relationships, when you change some of the dynamics, when one person changes or begins to hold values differently or make choices differently, suddenly the nature of that relationship changes. And as it begins to develop, certainly the person or people who did not make the change have a great deal more trouble adjusting to the new dynamic. And they often feel insecure. We talked about this with Beth Martins a few weeks ago. And so as we again consider these things, this is the part of the conversation that's always come up. And it is this very premise that began this idea of the Awakening Project, and try to quantify, if we can, some of those things. So certainly I've learned a lot already. And what happened, of course, as you probably already know, those of you who have been here for a while know that a good deal of the data points that I get is from people's stories, the way that they tell their story. Because the way we put down memories, and again, we don't even know where the memories are stored. It's definitely not in the brain. They've disproven that. And we don't even know much about consciousness. But without getting too deep into what we don't know, we do know that memories are laid down largely by the importance that we put on it. It has to have emotional context, and it has to have meaningful application to our narrative, and that we assign that to it. And the more meaningful the narrative, the more likely we are to remember it. Doesn't necessarily mean that we remember it accurately. In fact, that's very often the case, that our biggest memories are misremembered, if you will, that we don't remember clearly, and it can change over time. These things are proven to be true, and there can be suggested memories and not real memories. And then there's the weird stuff where places seem to hold memories, and I love that. And again, the more you look at these things from the idea of frequency and vibration, and the nature of the way the universe appears to work by observation, what we see is that this idea of a place can hold a memory seems to be valid in every perspective that you look at this. And objects can begin to absorb and later manifest powerful emotions and intentions, much like the One Ring, right, that Sauron put his will into it. These things appear to have some veracity to them. And without, again, getting too far off into that, as we, again, look at the nature of the world around us, again, people tell their stories, the way that they recall the story, the way that they infuse it with emotions. And I listened to some conversations yesterday, and I'll touch on that briefly. People having conversations about stuff that has strong emotional context to it. And people tend to get very animated when talking about those things. And in part, we all have a difficulty seeing ourselves very clearly. There's sort of this myopic blind spot that we can't see about ourselves. Even the most self-aware of us have usually trouble seeing things about ourselves. And this is why, for me, I've learned to rely on people that I trust and people I care about, who I know have my best intentions in mind, so that they can kind of mirror back to me what it is that I'm doing, because I have my intention, but sometimes I know it doesn't appear that way to other people, and so they can misinterpret. And as the conversation I was having with Brian about relationships last night, so often problems in relationships that I've seen before, very often, in fact, the predominance of time, happen through to miscommunication and misunderstanding, where one party misinterprets the intentions of another, and especially in the absence of information, we begin to develop a storyline and a narrative, and very often we go to the worst case scenario, right? And so we develop a very negative viewpoint of what the other person is thinking. And I will touch on this idea, bookmark that, because that's a very salient and powerful idea that I have relating, for example, to Scripture, especially the Bible, and people's interpretation of it, and even those who wrote it. They had a view that was based in part on what they saw, what they believed, and what they understood, and so they tried to interpret what they beheld in a way that was consistent with that, without necessarily understanding the actual intentions of the other party, especially if it's a deity, right? The Lord was angry and so smote him. Wow, is that true, or you just didn't like the guy and you're glad he's dead? Right? These things are good questions to ask, and so I'll touch on this tomorrow during the Sola Scriptura, the 0.5 middle episode, which I'll call the sort of scriptural. We'll take a look at some of these ideas. And again, I'm not talking about people, but the conversations. I listened to a conversation yesterday, Jaron and Austin Whitsitt, kind of talking on his Friday Lounge. And both of them, I think, fairly well elucidated two different views. And I have my observations on that. Again, I have no intention to talk about the people. It has nothing to do with that. But other than the fact that they both, I think, well elucidated some ideas and kind of crystallized it. So if you want to listen to that in between, it's a spirited conversation. And as usual, I don't agree with everything everybody said, and right. And yeah, I've said before, I don't even necessarily agree with everything I say, just ideas, and perhaps I can answer some questions on from both sides. But we'll address that tomorrow. That's not the content of this program. Today, again, I just wanted to kind of touch on these ideas that over time, this channel has developed, as you know, into something, again, kind of that came out of reading those stories. And one of the, certainly the things that was corollary for pretty much all of the participants in the study anyway, 350 plus, is that they begin to feel alone and isolated when these relationships begin to change, especially the nature of what caused the relationship and the new perspective people have. As a result of this new perspective, they often are ostracized, rejected, made fun of, trolled, you name it. And what kind of person does it take to have the temerity to keep going in the face of that? What kind of people are more likely to try to, flat smack or red pill others? There's a group of people who kind of take that position, and there's a variety of positions and viewpoints that people take thereafter. But one of the most consistent things, irrespective of what they do with the information, is that they begin to feel alone and isolated, and their relationships suffer as a result. So one of the things that I wanted to do, well, and thank you, Cammie, this is exactly what I was kind of hoping for, right, is a place for people to congregate and gather and to better grasp and appreciate the idea that you are not alone. There are many people very much like you. We might be widespread and far-flung, but from my perspective, just kind of looking at the overview, there's not only so many kind of similarities, but the one primary similarity is you guys are great people, right? Like everybody that I have met is amazing, right? And so these are the people who have the kind of intellectual honesty and the kind of transparency to accept a new paradigm and to embrace it in the face of, all kinds of hostility. Again, you're the kind of people that I want to hang out with. And so as this develops even further, the idea of wanting to hang out and especially wanting to throw off the yoke of what surrounds us in terms of what many would call the matrix or the government system, this control grid that they not only have put on us, but they are now accelerating. Liz, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I just love you guys. This the things that they've done, especially this year, right, really putting the pedal to the metal, seems to increase the. Well, it certainly seems to shorten the timelines, right? I was talking to my wife this morning, and that what we've seen over the last decade is pretty consistent with what we've seen in the last year, right? The amount of motion, they've gone from a glacial pace to really moving pretty quickly. You guys are so awesome. Thank you. I'm literally blushing, and you're gonna make me tear up. I love you guys. Again, this idea of wanting to get together and self-sustain, right, and congregational, and the C word we talked about, the poppy cult, and I have to admit that Rose didn't like that very much. And, I mean, it's not her call, not really my call, but. Either it's going to be what it wants to be, but I love congregational. I love that the idea of getting together as a congregation, that we're congregating together. I love that. I just I want to pursue this, and so had started the conversation about transitioning around the first of the year, and I think that's going to happen somewhere in the certainly the first quarter, but hopefully in the first month, that I'm going to transition to fewer hours at my regular job a little bit so that I can put some more attention into this and try to pursue more aggressively, not only this channel, but the idea of trying to get together and physically congregate in a place that is self-sustaining and allows us to pursue our relationships and our lives in something that is more consistent with our ethics and our goals. With the understanding that, as I see in chat, somebody says we have 6 months, maybe, right? I don't know. But I know that if I do nothing, then I certainly won't be prepared. Right. So failing to plan is planning to fail, as it's been said. And so the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So this is the point at which I say, yeah, I'm going to move forward with a number of different ways to try to, again, generate some of the lost revenue, doing some music with Joe Ray and some other folks as well, and try to pursue that a little bit and satisfy the request of folks who have been asking for some music. So doing some of that, spending a bit more time doing prepared videos and scripted videos, and then presenting them on the channel for Patreons and that sort of stuff. We'll pursue that a little bit more, just to try to fill up that hole, but also to give us a bit more time to complete the work we began on the Awakening Project, and to pursue this idea of getting together. And as Mojo Shop says, the tribe, right? So yeah, I want to move forward with that. And so, no Mason outfits, I promise. I swear that I will wear clothes around people. How about that? I won't be rude and damage your eyeballs, but I can't say what happens at home. But there you go. So anyway, going to move forward with that, and want to do so aggressively and invite a few people. In fact, I'll just invite you, if you're interested in doing something like that, to bring your skills, and perhaps we'll need some resources as well. So whatever it is that you can bring, whether that's fiduciary or sweat equity, whatever that looks like, and we'll come up with ideas. We're again talking to a few people, including Nachiketa. Hey, Nathan, you're awesome, man. I just love you guys. You guys are off the charts, man. So yeah, Nachiketa wrote up a little document just kind of outlining the idea and why we want to do this, and I thought it was great. He sent it to Mark Bloom and myself, and I want to again spend some more time with that. And as I said before, my wife and I have spent hours talking about kind of what it would look like, and what like what a tribal thing would look like. The more time that I spent trying to better understand the nature of community living, it appeared that the Native American tribes had it well worked out. Again, I'm not necessarily copying them one for one, but they had a lot of things worked out really well in terms of especially generational stuff, who does what and how that works out, and using people, I'd say using, but the people contributing the best of their abilities at whatever time and space in their life, as well as taking into account what they're good at, right, and what they have to offer and what they're interested in. These things are important. And then how do you? Good morning, Fox Bear. It's great to see you. And so taking these things into account, what does it look like, so that there's some structure without being, we certainly don't want to get into a government system, a mind control place of rules, right? But there just has to be some just general agreements that we're all on the same page with this. And to that end, much of what occurred is along the lines of, again, just doing something that if we work this out, wherever it is, it doesn't have to be one big giant place, but it could be, the idea of franchise or whatever, the different places around. Candace, you're so kind. Moving, hauling streams. Hey, thank you so much, Candace. See, that's so very kind. So, yeah, putting together this idea that it could be a template. Right, so if a group of us get together and begin to pursue this IRL, right, LARPing, if you will, for those of you who are familiar with that, IRL, in real life, LARP, live action role play. If we begin to do this in real life and work out some of the issues, right, then at least we can we can tell you what not to do, right, and make some of those mistakes before we pursue it, either in a far-flung location, which ultimately I think is probably necessary if we want to stay away from the baddies for as long as possible. But at the outset, it seems like whatever we can do close to ourselves, right, just to get it started, that's a good thing. But sooner or later, and probably sooner than later from what we've seen, these cities, these smart cities, are going to be pretty much the primary location distraction for people. And so as a result, we want to do the opposite of that. And so again, I invite you to send me an email, unintended.consequences3@gmail.com, to express interest and, the way you see it. We're just, again, trying to put this thing together and put together some ideas and tap a few people who might have some time and resources where we can begin to move forward. And from my end, again, I'm transitioning around the first of the year into spending more time on this and less time at work. Okay, I see the chatter in the chat. I know, Cami, you got something going on? Is there a show? Talk to me. What am I missing here? See, I back out. This is so very unprofessional of me, but I want to know. I would love to have you meet my wife, and I want all of us to be together. Right? That's what I want. You guys are awesome. Winston, thank you. And I love Joe Ray too, man. Joe is a good friend of mine, and we want to again get together and begin doing some of our old music as well as writing some new music and begin to pursue some of that. And what kind of numbers do I imagine in the congregation? Well, here's one of the things I know for sure is that after studying a variety of things, it shouldn't ever probably exceed 300. One of the things that occurs is that we have the capacity to really engage in about 200 or so relationships. And it's been, again, studied over a long period of time that 150 is about the right number for a full thing. And if it gets to 200, then you should split and become like an amoeba, right? You should mitosis at that point. And this is a number of groups used to do that. Tribal groups used to get to, when they got up to about 200, they began preparing. And when the number reached 300, they had people chosen who would split off and leaving about 150 in each group so that they could mitosis. And they sent them off with all the supplies they needed to start a new village, and close enough that they could, trade with one another and still be in contact, but beginning a new village, because it takes care of all the things that need to be done as well as all the relationships. And so what numbers do I see? I don't know if 150 people would show up at all, to begin with. I would love to see, 20 or 30 people. I think would be, doable. I think even a dozen would be viable, in a small place. So again, I don't know, but I've had enough response that I would say there's probably at least 30 or 40 people who are not just interested, but like close to being ready to do it. They could do it probably within 18 months if we had a place to go. And there are many, many more who would be interested beyond that if there was actually a thing going. And so, again, in knowing that Owen Benjamin is doing Bertaria, and again, Nachiketa had these ideas as well. Again, to me, there's nothing original about it. It's not like I just feel like, again, the premise that people don't have ideas, that ideas have people, that this is sort of out there, right? There's a sense that this is what we ought to do, and so people are beginning to do it. And I would like to get together with others who have begun doing this, and like Flat Earth Ship Bear has begun doing, an Earthship for a while. And again, so Benjamin Balderson has been doing this sort of thing for a while. So anybody that has experience in having done this already, again, I'm more than willing to have that conversation and to learn as much as we can and get together and support one another. I think that would be a terrific thing to do, is to, again, begin to move forward. And so if people, again, want to be involved in this, reach out. Well, to me, it's all about, again, finding the right people, and because I think that is a very important aspect. And then if there are people who have different ideas, I would strongly encourage, again, to then have different ones, right? So I don't think that you can. Again, people are different. Some people, we all have a tendency to kind of self-segregate into those people who are more similar-minded, and not that you're excluding others, but that you just there's a sense of familiarity. And so there are some people going to be more into one thing than another, and some things that would be completely off the beaten path for some people. And so it is difficult to please a lot of people. So I just think that, again, when people become similar and like-minded, they're going to be more, I don't know, it's going to be easier. How about that? It's not that you can't be compatible. I think, again, I love a variety of ideas, and I have said this over and over. I have no sense of like, oh, I'm going to kick people out because they don't think the same way I do. I don't know anybody that thinks the same way I do. At all, but not my wife. Nobody that I know has exactly the same views that I do. But I love to listen to other people's views, and I learn a great deal from it and change my views fairly frequently based on the information. So always learning to increase and improve, I guess. But what I'm saying here is that again, I just kind of riffing on this idea. It doesn't have to be just one place, right? It could be a variety of different places, but with a similar theme, and especially if we come up with a set of agreements or whatever that that this is kind of the way it works, then there could be a group of these, right? Just not only around the country, around the world. So our friends in Finland, Georgia, and those guys can get together and do something perhaps there, or in Europe, in Australia. I would love to see this, right? And so I encourage people to begin looking at it. And yeah, right. Not starting a cult, just to be clear, the poppy cult. I know Rose hates that, but yeah, congregational. I like that a great deal, right? The idea that we're just congregating, and so anyway, that's kind of the premise here. Is I'm going to be kind of retooling the channel a little bit in the first quarter, especially at the second quarter, because I should have successfully transitioned at that point from one to the other, and spending a good deal more time in doing some background research in both trying to again step out on our own and to some other topics of interest, and doing an entire series on water. Finally trying to get that out, because there's just no way I could do it in 2-hour shows. Impossible. So I think doing it as a series is probably a good idea. But yeah, kind of working on that stuff, and then setting up for doing music and a few other things there. Right. Anyway, so that's sort of the scene. That's what it looks like. I'm gonna start that early on, first of the year, is to sort of transition. So. I do have your contact. And again, I would say specific to this, if you just want to send me another email, just ping me and say, hey, count me in. I know we've kind of already done this before, but I've set up a folder now. I can start is called just another label? It really is. The reason I don't mind it so much, right, is it's sort of the same reversal of the intended poke in the eye that, like Christian was initially intended as an epithet. It basically, in the Greek, it meant, like diminutive, right? Like, it was my wife used to have a dog, and the local burrito taco stand, they called him Perrito, right? It's a diminutive little dog, and it's true, but it sort of so is like diminutive little Jesus, like little Christ, right? Like, oh, he's mini me, and intended to be an epithet. They wore it as pride. Right. And so with the same way, sort of, again, cult literally just means people who are completely devoted to an idea, a principle, a religion, or a person. And so, of course, I'm not big into religion, and it certainly isn't about me. So throw the person out. But to an idea, I'm fine with being completely devoted to an idea. That's fine with me. And so that's there you go. So that's why I don't mind it. And it's like, okay, you can call it a cult. You're going to think whatever you want anyway, right? So best cult ever, right? Exactly. And that's kind of how I feel about it, right? It's like, yeah, fine, right? You're not going to join it anyway, so what does it matter? In any case, but like, I don't want to offend anybody or freak anybody out. So I don't care. Congregational living, a hippie commune, ashram, I don't give a shit. Right? It is what it is. And so we have that going, which is nice. So anyway, that's really kind of, I didn't have a whole lot today. I did want to cover some of these ideas and let you know what is coming in, the coming months and what that's going to look like. And if you hear me talking about, Patreon and that sort of stuff, that's what it's about. I'm going to figure out more of that. But I will be focused a great deal more on this idea of doing culture, as Allison says, is to begin to actually tribe up and do this for real and give you reports on that. But I'll probably separate that out into a different topic. So again, try to I don't know, silo if that's if I'm not particularly thrilled with using corporate speak for these kind of topics, but basically narrowcast portions of the channel that deal specifically either with music or with sort of the these truth topics or with the more spiritual themes that come on Sunday, as well as the sort of tribal living. So there's that's what it sort of looks like is what's coming up. And so let's see, let me then sort of telegraph that tomorrow, of course, I'll be doing Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World early at 7 o'clock on the West Coast. And that'll be the sort of the typical deal. What I want to cover in the afternoon, and that's 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern, tomorrow, Sunday, during Sort of Scriptural. Is to kind of answer some questions, and again, when I say answer, I'm going to give you my perspective on it. It doesn't mean that I have all the answers or that I know anything more than anybody else, but I do have a perspective that comes from both study and experience. So I guess there's that. And I hope to try to elucidate those ideas well, and I hope that it is helpful to people. So if that is so, good. If not, then don't worry. I'm not interested in fighting about it or arguing or defending those views because I don't necessarily present them as being the right or only answers. Simply that this is the way that I see it. So if that's of interest to you, I would encourage and adjure you to be here tomorrow at 5 p.m. To talk about some of these items. Again, my intention is not to trigger anybody. In fact, quite differently, to avoid that. And I think, again, these are definitely emotional topics for many people. They've had both positive and negative experiences, sometimes to the extreme parts of the continuum. And so they have very strong and powerful feelings about it. And I fully understand that. And have watched and seen it, and I have experienced both of those things in my life. So, but we'll explore those things, and again, I'll give you some perspective on it, and you can do with that what you will. You can eat the meat, throw away the bones, keep the nickel in your pocket if you like, throw it in the trash. I don't really care. But again, I have no interest in arguing over it or even really having a debate. It's, again, simply informative, answer some questions as best I'm able, and offer some perspective on questions that get asked a lot, right? So that's really more the topic, is that there are some basic groups of questions about some of the nature of these spiritual things that I think that I haven't heard a lot of people say it certain way. So because I see some perspectives, or I see, I don't know, standard views or often taken views that I think are somewhat short-sighted and don't take into account the broader view, I guess, as I put it that way. Anyway, so we got that. Okay, so there's that. And then that's what you can expect. Happy holidays, everybody. I hope that you're going to do well over the holiday time. I appreciate that this is going to be a challenging time for a lot of people as we get into the holidays. I expect that they're going to do some nonsense to some degree, and I sure hope not. But I think it's going to be difficult for a lot of people. So keep your eyes open, keep your heart open. I will continue to say, as in all relationships, the best thing you can do is be the best version of you that you can. And my recommendation and my encouragement for that is always, if you want to know the truth, go to your Creator and ask. And my experience is that the Creator cares deeply about you. And in fact, I will do this here. I was going to save this for tomorrow, but you know what? I'll drop it here. And if it's if Scripture offends you, then this is probably the place for you just to exit and say goodbye and enjoy the rest. But oh, that's good. So yeah, just wanted to share with you something I was reading in Isaiah. And a little bit of a combination of the Revised Baldini version and taken in part from the Message. It's Isaiah chapter 43. And this kind of came from, again, the idea that I have heard many people say that it does seem like the God of the Old Testament, often known as Yahweh, it seems schizophrenic. He seems like a very different person than the God of the New Testament. And I think there are reasons for that, and I will try to explain as best I can tomorrow afternoon on that without getting too deep into it. Okay, Janet. I appreciate that. That's fine. So, anyway, many people think that the God presented in the Old Testament is angry and murderous and that sort of stuff. And there are certainly stories, but again, those are stories, and because they appear there doesn't necessarily mean that all of them are endorsed or the way one ought to behave. And certainly it is true that the New Testament, the God presented in the New Testament, is largely based on the person of Jesus and his intentions toward mankind. And since he, we're told, he represented God, then that seemed to be, again, a kinder, gentler sort of deity. But I was struck with this little bit from, again, this is from the book of Isaiah, very definitely Old Testament stuff, sort of explaining the nature of Dad's intentions and thoughts about you. And so I thought it was, again, it's consistent with the person of the Creator that I know. And when I was reading through it, I was like, oh, yeah, that. So I thought that if you're okay with it, I'll share it with you. And hopefully this will be a teaser and sort of whet your appetite for tomorrow afternoon. And this is from, again, Isaiah 43. It's a revised Baldini version. This is God's message for you. God who made you, the one who got you started. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. I'll save you. I've called you by name, and you're mine. You belong to me. When you're in over your head, I'll be there with you. When you're in rough waters, you won't drown. When you're between a rock and a hard place, it won't be a dead end. Because I'm God, your personal God. I paid a huge price for you. All the riches in the world, that's how much you mean to me. That's how much I love you. I'd sell the whole world to get you back. Trade all of creation just for you. So don't be afraid. I'm with you. I created you for my glory, personally formed and made every one of you. So get the blind and deaf out here and get them ready. The blind, although there's nothing wrong with their eyes, and the deaf, though there's nothing wrong really with their ears. Get them all together. Let's see what they have to say about this, how they account for what's happened. Let them present their expert witnesses and make their case. Let them try to convince us what they say is true. But you are my witnesses, says God. You're my hand-picked. You've come to know and trust me and understand both that I am and who I am. No one can take anything from me. If I make it, who can unmake it? I am God. I thought that was kind of cool. And again, consistent with the Creator that I know. So with that, I suppose I will begin now to wrap it up. We'll bring the thing in for a landing. Again, I appreciate everybody being here today. I recognize it's fairly short, as it will be probably through the end of the year as I begin to make these transitions and changes, although I expect that sort of scriptural, the show tomorrow afternoon at 5 will probably be a little bit longer given the nature of its content. You can expect that ancient wisdom for a modern world will probably be again, fairly brief. We'll just do the Proverbs as usual and perhaps answer some questions there. But with that, I will leave you and I'll find some old music. And since I have been asked for some with some of the original Wayback Machine. This is Joe Ray on guitar, Jim Rogers, the late Jim Rogers on drums. I played bass and keyboards and did some backing vocals. Deanna Smith is on lead vocals as well. This is called In Your Eyes. Back when the band was called Sleepyhead, very, very long time ago, based out of Dallas, Texas, and played there quite a bit. So it's called In Your Eyes from, I think, 1992, something like that. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Thanks for coming.